Hey, when I was a teenager, I used to really enjoy playing tennis. So much so that I'd spend all Saturday playing. And as I got better, I wouldn't give up on the old group that I would play with. So I was playing C grade, and then eventually I was playing B grade, and then I was playing A grade. And the reason I bring this up is because what I noticed over time is that it's not that much fun smashing C grade players every Saturday morning. And I think a lot of you would have had this similar experience where you're playing something, enjoying a game. It could be chess, it could be basketball, whatever. But having that partner that is equally skilled and actually pushing you to be your best, and how valuable that is, that's the experience that I think we should be striving for with AI assistance in software engineering. And so that's something that I want you to think about as I'm sort of showing you what I'm sharing today. So just keep that in mind, that experience of having something that's pushing you to be your best, and how could you use an AI assistant to do your best work, or some of your best work. So what I plan to cover today is why AI-assisted development matters, and actually Mish presented some similar themes this morning. So for those of you who are there, it's going to be a little bit of a recap, but bear with me on that. I'm going to introduce QDeveloper. I'm here from AWS. That's our AI assistant, so it would be remiss if I didn't share about that. I want to do a bit of a live demo. In the interest of time, like the 25-minute slot, I couldn't quite fit in what I wanted to, so there's a little pre-recorded section, but then we're going to do some live stuff. Some key learnings and best practices while I burn some GPUs somewhere to get the live demo going, and then some resources to get you started. So this is a pretty startling statistic. Like 2 years ago, only 10% of software developers were using some kind of assistant. But this research from Gartner predicts that 75% of software developers, software engineers, will be using an AI assistant by 2028. And I'll be surprised if it's actually not earlier than that. I dare say there would be not many of you who here are responsible for producing software, whether that's data engineers or traditional software or other, who haven't already been experimenting with those. And I think that what that means is it's something that you definitely need to take notice of and to learn to be competent at, because if you're not using one, I fear that the other cohort, the 75%, by that time frame will be actually moving faster and being more productive. And so I think you're leaving an opportunity on the table, because these tools are not just there for to take tasks away from you, but also to help you learn. Going back to that story that I started with about having a partner that can actually encourage you and actually thinks differently to you, thinks in quotation marks, it's an AI, it's maths, but you get me, to learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. And so if everyone's going to be using an AI assistant, how's that going to help them? And so Mish touched on it this morning. Research from software.com shows that software developers on average are spending about an hour a day actually pushing forward with new software. They're doing a whole bunch of other stuff that's valuable in the other part of the day, but the actual pushing forward is really not the lion's share of where the time is being spent. So you're maintaining applications, you're working with teammates, collaborating, designing things, writing specs, documenting things. So if AI assistant's only helping you with the new code, we're leaving a lot of value on the table then. So what else should an AI assistant for a software developer be able to do to actually help you be productive with the larger share of your day, above and beyond when you're just writing new software? And so if we think about where software developers are spending time, there's a few different key areas. And for those of you who are in the game, none of it's a surprise, right? You're exploring, designing, and planning new features, changes to your work, interpreting requirements from Jira tickets and other fun things. You're actually doing the creation work, writing software, making changes, adjusting, testing and securing your software, reviewing code, yours and others' code, and deploying that. And then maintaining, transforming, modernizing, that kind of bucket of housekeeping that needs to be done to keep your application up to date. That could be updating Java versions, .NET versions, migrating to newer things. And so if the AI assistant is just limited to that create tool bucket there, we're leaving a lot on the table. And so what we heard from customers is, how can your tools, AWS, help us with these other parts of our role? So That could be onboarding to new projects, asking questions about internal code bases that you have, planning or designing new software features. The actual act of writing code, both in an IDE but also in a command line environment, conversational coding or CHOP, whatever you want to call that. Improving test coverage with unit test generation, and also being able to scan your software to help remediate any security vulnerabilities that might exist. Reviewing and deploying. So automating code reviews. I think if you're anything like me, you've definitely had that experience of waiting for a colleague to review your code and the annoyance of that. What can we do to accelerate that activity and actually get you the fast feedback while you're still working on a task so you can get that completed and move on to the next thing that you want to do. Being able to assess risk around deployment, generate documentation. Again, like I've opened, must be hundreds now of repos with no README file, just accept the standard boilerplate thing that you get from like a Create React app or any other tool of choice. And then, as I said, upgrading software runtimes, Java, .NET, and mainframes. I hope none of you are in that camp, but it is out there in the wild. And so what AWS has been working on is Amazon Q Developer, and this is the AI assistant from AWS. The benefits of Q Developer are that it can help you across this whole range of activities, and it does that because it's through its agentic capabilities. And so we've heard a lot about agentic today, but effectively there are purpose-built systems that support Q Developer that can help you with this range of tasks. Not only that, it has the benefit of being trained on 17 years worth of AWS history around how we deal with incidents, how we write code, and a variety of other inputs. And what that means is that it's able to produce the most accurate coding recommendations as judged by the number of accepted code changes in an AI assistant. Cool, so for our demo today, it's a fairly trite example, but what I thought we could do is actually try and generate an application that could be used in a conference setting, not unlike this, to capture questions from the audience for a speaker and then provide a voting mechanism so that people could upvote questions. I don't think we've been having that problem here today. It seems like we need more questions, or more time for questions, I'm not sure. But so that's the idea. And so what I wanted to do was actually start with a prompt. And so this is the prompt that I've started with. So basically I'm outlining that I wanted to build this application that allows people to suggest questions, and then I'm providing some parameters there. I'm indicating that I want there to be a front end that's React, it's using Tailwind and a few other bits and pieces, and then also a back end that's there to support that. And I want it to use AWS serverless services, and then define that using CDK. But what I've actually asked it for is not the application. I've asked it to help me generate the specs for that application. So I'm actually interacting with it to kind of test or round out my thinking and have it ask me questions that I may not have thought about. And so again, I think this is an area where you could use AI Assistant to help solidify your thinking. And because it's non-deterministic, it's going to ask different questions every time you put the prompt in. And so, actually running that through a few times might uncover things that you may not have thought about, but maybe you should. And so what I did was I started with Q Chat, which is the command line integration for Q Developer. And I've pasted this prompt in, and what you'll see is the video of what happened on the next slide. So hit play, and if the gods are with me, yep, okay. So we've got this CLI where I fire up Amazon Q. I paste in the prompt that you've just seen. Q's quite happy to help me out with that. You'll have to excuse my typing as I go through it. And it's asking me questions like, does this need to support multiple conferences or is it just one? Where do you want to store the data? Do you want real-time feedback? Like things that I might not have thought about while I was actually writing my prompt or thinking about the app. And then it asks if I want moderation. Should administrators be able to, so you sort of see what's going on here, right? And it's just asking me a range of different things. And I could, sort of steer that in lots of different ways. But at the end, it says, cool, I've got it. Let me go and generate the specs file as a markdown, and we can go from there. And it's super polite. It's like, anything else I can help you with? No, you can thank Anthropic for that, I think. And so it recaps on what it's generated, pumps that out to a markdown file that's in my empty project directory, and wishes me luck with building my application, which I think is pretty good. And then to break that down, I've asked it in a second prompt to generate the front-end application for that. So put that in the front-end directory. I haven't said anything here about the technology, but go check out the specs. You'll find the features, you'll find the tech specs that I wanted, and just let it rip, basically. And so we're exactly where we left off. You'll see that this one's going to play pretty quickly, but the first thing I do is I issue /accept all. Basically, QCLI is going to ask me to accept every single change or to accept the action that it's going to take before it takes it. But if I go /accept all, that's like guardrails off, right? So not recommended in production environment, but you don't want all the pauses of me sitting there and like the perpetual drinker from The Simpsons, like hitting the any key. But it's good for fun, right? So if you were exploring a proof of concept, if you were just mucking around, one of my colleagues was making games with his kid on the weekend using this, and they just like let it rip and see what happens. One thing that you'll notice, like, so it's pumping out all this TypeScript and other stuff, but it doesn't just grab and insert code. It's actually running commands on my machine as well. So instead of just inserting a new dependency into my package JSON, it's actually using npm install for that. Where it's trying to initiate a new project, it's using the same commands that you would use as an engineer to initiate a new project. So this is where the agentic capabilities really like kind of come into their own. And so at the end, it recaps what it's done. It's given me a list of files that it created. Does this work actually like this? Yeah. Okay, yeah. It's given me a list of files that it's created and what they're there for, and the services and the functions that have been developed, and then it tells me how to run the application. And so the third kind of canned prompt I did was create an architectural diagram for me in the draw.io format. Again, I've been involved in so many projects over the years that have got no diagrams, and this would be super helpful, even if it was like not 100% correct, but close enough. Now, it's not as pretty as maybe what you would all go and create yourselves, but I think it, like in terms of the line layout and some of the text up the top, but it's like 95% there, and with a little bit of tweaking, you can go and adjust that. And it's just done that from the specs markdown file, that's in my project directory. And work straight out of the box into draw.io. But you could do that in another format. You could say add that as a mermaid or plant UML straight into my README, and it'll go and do what it needs to do and insert that straight in. So I think some of this grunt work about leveling up documentation that most people don't love, this is a really good starting place. So I wanted to switch across and actually show you where we're at with the front-end app. Okay, so this is the directory where I was working, and this is kind of where we've left off. So we've got this specs file. Sorry, I'll get rid of that. So this was the markdown that it created. It showed a summary in the command line, but this is the kind of whole thing with all the features that it wrote out, just to kind of recap on that. These are the prompts that I was using. So here's the first one, here's the second one asking for the front end, and then here's the third one asking for the architectural diagram. And here's the front end code. So we've got like a whole project there, and what QChat told me was that I should be able to run I think it said npm run dev, but so we're now in the project folder, and if I just say, well, I'm in the wrong directory, right? So I'm just running commands now in QCLI, so not actually escaping to a proper terminal, I'm just running them straight in. And now it's like, oh, you want to, oh, sorry. So over here on the right, that's in the Q chat CLI, the third pane, the terminal pane. And so I typed in there print working directory, and it's shown me that I'm in the top level folder for the project. But if I say npm run dev, which is not the right directory, non-deterministic, good times. All right. Cool, so it found that there was a front end and then found the command that it needed to use and then started it up. And this is the front end application that it generated. So I've got some conference sessions across the top here, which we never put that data in, it just automatically generated some dummy data. It wired up the API to like talk to a local implementation until like a stub, I guess, until the API was going to be built. And then it's given me the ability to, no, not today, add new questions, so test. And then see them kind of vote there as well. So we've got like kind of a working front end application. Now if we go back here and take this prompt, which is basically saying, check out the specs and the front end application and then go and deliver the code. So if I shell out over here, I say accept all. It gives me a little bit of a warning that that might be risky. And basically what it's doing now, oh, that's no fun. Okay, yeah. It's using agents to go and understand like what's in that front end directory, how is it laid out. In the specs.md at the bottom, there's an API spec that it actually built out as a shell. It's going to take these things and then try to line it all up, and hopefully it'll actually go and update the front end code as well and then reintegrate it with my back end. So this is one way of interacting with the Q CLI. So this is called Q Chat. When you do install the Q Developer CLI, the first thing you actually get is kind of auto-completion tips wherever you are inside your shell. So if you're using the AWS command line, you can start typing AWS. It'll start helping you auto-complete commands, but it does that across your whole system. So much the same way that path completion works, but this is working for all the commands on your device. So that's one way of working with it. The Q chat is another. And then we have this ability in here to, this is a little bit big, so just bear with me. So in this panel, we've got the ability to invoke to send prompts into Q Developer or ask questions about our code base or anything else. And so we can actually send prompts straight in there, and then if we wanted to, we can activate certain agents to do certain tasks that it's more specifically oriented to do. So that could be generating documentation, performing a code review, or transforming like a Java project or so on. And so those are super handy for specialized tasks. If you run the /review, it'll provide any output straight up here into this Amazon queue, and then it will start asking you like if it can help you with remediating any of those issues. That could be code formatting or security or other. So you've kind of got all of that right here. While we talk, this is going over here and just chugging away, thinking, searching, scanning. And I think we should see that it's started creating this like back-end project for us, which looks like a pretty standard sort of a TypeScript project, right? I don't know how long this is going to run for. I reckon it's maybe like 7 or 8 minutes, we'll see. So we can go back here. So we've started our demonstration. I reckon we carry on and then we'll just visit it back in a second. So I thought it'd be worth sharing a few tips or ideas if you're going to get started with AI assistants in general, but especially with Q Developer. So as you've seen, one of the things that you could ask it to do is help refine your requirements. So you can ask it questions and have it do that kind of question asking and help you generate refinement. But the other thing you can do is ask it to create a plan. So that could be a plan that you're going to implement, and you could ask for that. But you could also ask it for an implementation plan that it wants to implement. And I've seen people doing that where what they're actually doing is breaking down a large task into a series of small tasks, but instead of like the task description, they're actually asking for the prompt that they should then feed in to undertake that next thing. But where I see this going is that the agents are getting smart enough at breaking this down on their own and actually dividing up the work that I think feeding prompts in incrementally is not going to be the most useful approach pretty quickly. But I think that's, a lot of you would have used Gen AI to test your thinking on something. I know, for example, I was interviewing a candidate. I came up with my own interview questions for this person, but I used the tool to like, hey, what else should I ask them? And I think in much the same way, helping you plan out your activities and have it harden your own thinking is a really good way to use it. Yeah, sorry, sort of doubled up there. Oh, that should have been changed. Okay, so yeah, okay, so review all your code, right? So I think Mish touched on it this morning. Like, don't throw AI-generated code into prod or even to your neighbours without reviewing it. Like, I think it's one thing that it's generating it, but you still have an obligation to understand it. You're still kind of technically the author, right? You're the person who's going to be attached to the Git commit. You're the one who's going to have to support it, and it's your responsibility to learn that. And if you don't know how it works, then either do your research or ask it to help you understand what it's doing and why it's doing that. You can ask it questions about your AWS environment. So from that Q chat, let's just say I had a FizzBuzz EC2 instance somewhere in one of the AWS regions. I could ask it to go and find that, and it will incrementally start going and querying the AWS and find where my instance is and then tell me where that instance is. But it can do so much more. So like just anything you can think of, ask it the question and see what it does. Don't run subsequent prompts without using git commit. I know that you're all in good habits and you make small changes and you commit them and then you make the next one. But if you do subsequent prompts, you're not going to know if it goes off the rails how to get back to where you were. So always give yourself a recovery point by committing that. Use inline prompting in your IDE. It's one thing I didn't show. You can actually highlight a section of code, hit Command-I, and it comes up with a prompt. You can ask it to explain, refactor, format, all things that maybe you used other plugins for, and it will do all those jobs for you. You can ask it, share useful prompts with your colleagues. So if there are common tasks that you're doing frequently in the place where you work, refine your prompts and find ones that work really well, but then share them amongst your team so that you're all getting the benefit of those. And there's actually a way to store those in your code base and refer to them with a prompt, and they can all be leveraged from there. /review code, we touched on that. Use your code to customize responses. So Q Developer Pro Tier has the ability for you to use your organization's code to actually enhance the responses that you get back from Q Developer. So what you'll get is responses that are going to be more in line with your organization's way of doing things. That could be internal libraries, code formatting style guide, and other things. And you get everyone at your organization then benefits from those as examples that have been used to customize it. Run commands using QChat. So we saw a small example before where you can actually just paste the command in and it will try and do the right thing for you based on what you're trying to do. But overall, I think if you have an idea, just try it out. Like, it's worth experimenting. I have a colleague who wanted to take an existing video and cut a section out of the middle, and he just asked QChat, just trim this from 10 seconds to 20 seconds out of the video. QChat used FFmpeg, sliced the video, stitched it all back together, and then away he had. That's not really a developer task, but he asked the developer tool, and it, because it's agentic, it was able to figure that out and do that. Let's just see where we're at with the demo and whether that's actually completed. How are we for time? Is it about now? Oh, it's actually working on a README. Dare say that's nearly done. We'll come back right at the end. So just in the interest of time, yep. NAB is a big customer of AWS. They have over 1,000 software developers. We worked with them to roll out QDeveloper for their thousands of developers. They, as I said, they tailored the QDeveloper experience with their own code bases, so took kind of shining light examples of code that they're using within NAB, and so that means that their code that they're now generating is conformant to what their enterprise expectations are, and they've been able to achieve a 41% improvement in productivity there and enhanced code quality quite significantly. If you want to get started with QDeveloper, get an AWS Builder ID. That allows you to get started for free. You can get QDeveloper, you get access to Skill Builder courses where you can do self-paced learning, and also these community groups. So there's a QR code there for getting your Builder ID. And I think going back to my opening point, which was that, in my view, like a smart developer working with a smart partner, and in this case a smart AI assistant, is a recipe for peak performance. I think you can learn faster, I think you can have more fun, and I think you can be more productive. Thank you. I would love to see if this is finished, but she's still working. Sorry, in practice it took like 8 or 9 minutes, but it's taken a little bit longer. I'll finish there. If you want to see if it worked afterwards, hang around. Please use the feedback survey. I'd love to get some feedback. This is not like the other QR codes. If you use this one, there's a chance that you get $25 in AWS credits. So if you provide your contact details, hopefully that motivates you to give a response. And otherwise, I'll hand back to Min.